In this video, we are going to study in detail the E4 error code that may appear on Samsung air conditioners. This type of code often causes concern among users, as it prevents the normal operation of the unit. It is important to mention from the beginning that the meaning of the code may vary slightly depending on the model and series of the air conditioner, so it does not always represent exactly the same fault in all units. Even so, in this video, we will provide you with a complete and practical guide that will allow you to identify the most common causes of the E4 error in Samsung systems and apply the necessary steps to solve it in most cases without the need to immediately call for technical service. As a first step, it is essential to determine what type of system your unit has, whether it is a Samsung inverter model or a conventional non-inverter model. This technological difference is crucial because inverter systems operate with advanced electronic control of the compressor speed, while conventional ones work in a simpler way through direct on-off control. For this reason, the meaning of the E4 code may differ between both types of systems. Knowing this distinction will allow you to approach the inspection with greater accuracy and avoid confusion during diagnosis. In the case of non-inverter or conventional units, it should be mentioned that they generally have two temperature sensors located in the indoor unit, in addition to a temperature switch or thermal protection for the compressor. These components work together to keep the system operating stably and protect it from possible overheating damage. If any of them fails, the system interprets an incorrect reading and activates the E4 error code as a protection mechanism. In this type of equipment, the E4 code is usually directly related to a failure in one of the two temperature sensors mentioned above. When one of these sensors stops working correctly or sends an out-of-range reading, the electronic control board detects an abnormal condition and, for safety reasons, stops the unit's operation while displaying the error on the screen. That is why it is important to check both sensors before suspecting other components. The first sensor is responsible for measuring the temperature of the air drawn in by the fan from the room. This information allows the system to know an average of the indoor air temperature and adjust the operation of the compressor and fan according to the thermal demand. The second sensor, on the other hand, is attached to the piping of the indoor unit, and its function is to measure the temperature of the refrigerant circulating inside the pipes. This control is vital to prevent frost or ice formation on the evaporator coil, which could seriously affect the system's efficiency and block the air flow. Before performing any measurements or tests on the sensors and before opening the unit, it is recommended to disconnect it completely from the electrical power supply for several minutes. This is not only a safety measure, but can also help reset the electronic control board, since in some cases the E4 error may disappear after a full reset. If the error reappears when the unit is turned back on, the next step is to clean the air filter of the indoor unit. A dirty filter can alter temperature readings and cause the system to falsely interpret an overheating condition or an out-of-range reading. Also check that airflow is normal and that the fans are working properly. If everything seems in order, continue by checking the electrical connections of the temperature sensors, since a loose connection or poor solder joint can trigger the same error code. If the electrical connections are correct and with the electronic board completely powered off, proceed to disconnect both temperature sensors from the indoor board. Use a digital multimeter set to the kiloohms scale and, with the sensor disconnected, place the meter's probes on the sensor's connector. On the kiloohms scale, the reading should neither be 0 nor infinite, as that would indicate that the sensor is shorted or completely open. If you have the technical manual of the unit, compare the measured values with the reference values provided by the manufacturer. If you do not have the manual, you can perform a practical test. Rub the sensor with your hand for a few seconds. If the sensor is in good condition, the resistance value measured by the multimeter should gradually decrease as its temperature rises. This simple method will allow you to confirm whether the sensor responds correctly to temperature changes. If no anomaly is detected in the sensors, it is possible that the problem lies in the indoor electronic control board, which may be misinterpreting the signals from the sensors. However, before assuming a board failure, another important possibility should still be ruled out. In some models, the E4 code may be associated with the compressor temperature switch, which, unlike the sensors, does not measure temperature gradually, but acts as a safety switch. This component stops the compressor's operation when excessive temperature is reached and opens the circuit, interrupting the feedback signal to the control board. In this case, you should verify whether there is an actual overheating problem in the compressor or whether the switch is malfunctioning. Carefully inspect the connections of the temperature switch to rule out false contacts that interrupt current flow. You can test the switch by turning the system completely off, disconnecting its wiring harness, and measuring electrical continuity with a multimeter. If the switch is closed, that is, in good condition, it should show electrical continuity. If it does not, it may be open due to an internal fault or triggered by excessive temperature. In the case of inverter units, the E4 error code may have multiple interpretations, as this type of technology includes more sensors and advanced electronic control systems. Depending on the specific model, there may be additional sensors located in the outdoor unit, which should also be checked using the same procedure described above. Some models may include the following sensors in the outdoor unit. A. Discharge temperature sensor, or thin compressor pipe sensor, which monitors the heat of the refrigerant gas leaving the compressor. B. Refrigerant temperature sensor located at the outlet of the condenser coil, responsible for detecting the residual heat of the gas before it moves to the next component in the system. C. Outdoor air temperature sensor, installed on the external side of the coil, which allows the system to adjust performance according to ambient conditions. After checking all these sensors, if the fault is still not found, attention should be focused on the high temperature switch, which performs a safety function similar to that of the compressor switch, but in the high pressure circuit. If the error appears immediately after turning on the unit, there is a possibility that this switch is permanently open, preventing the confirmation signal from returning properly to the outdoor electronic board, which triggers the E4 error code immediately. In this case, disconnect the unit from power, separate the switch wiring harness, and measure the 2 pins of the component with a multimeter set to continuity mode. It should show electrical continuity. If it does not, the switch is open and must be replaced or checked for a real thermal cause.